Hi, and welcome to the webinar Getting Festival Ready, presented by the Downtown Ithaca Alliance. My name is Sam Carney. I am the Retail Support Coordinator. I'm here at the Downtown Ithaca Alliance. We will be, festival season is right around the corner, so we thought it would be a great opportunity to have representatives from the DIA, as well as great merchants and store managers here to chat about their experiences getting festival ready. So first, we'll start with Allison Graffin from the DIA marketing team. We also have Summer from our events team who will chat a little bit. And then we have an awesome panel of merchants and store owners. Tim Gray from Comics for Collectors, Megan Vidler from Home Green Home, Lisa Swayze from Buffalo Street Books, and Zach Fishel from F. Oliver. So we're really excited. But to kick this off, we'll send it over to Allison on our marketing team.
There you go. So I'm going to talk real briefly on a general overview of planning to get ready for a festival and some of the things that you can do in advance and then leading up so that you can maximize getting foot traffic in the door during large festivals. A couple key things to think about is despite all sorts of logistics, there are thousands of people who are willing to come downtown, deal with parking when there are thousands of people, deal with traffic. So these are people who are committed to coming to our community, despite every sort of thing that on any other given day might convince them not to get in their car and even to leave their house. And so when you have people committed to coming downtown, that's a great thing. And so what we want to do is then see how we can roll out the red carpet at these festivals and get people inside the door because they're coming to celebrate a festival. And so the first thing we want to think about is planning in advance. Planning is essential. Start with the calendar. Get all the events for the year on your calendar so that you see them for the whole year, so that you can think about which events you want to participate in and which you don't want to participate in. And then start to think about all the different things that you would do in advance. Will you need additional staff? Will you need to have additional inventory? If you're going to do something special for your event or to tie into the festival, you need to plan for the supplies. And then also, what are you going to do to let people know that you're celebrating that festival inside your store? One of the simplest connections to think about is that if people are coming to celebrate the festival, if it's Ithaca Festival, then how can you celebrate the festival inside your store? If it's Apple Harvest, how can you celebrate Apple Harvest inside your store? If it's the holidays or Chowder Cook-Off or Chili Cook-Off, these people are coming to celebrate that festival. So thinking about that as a tie-in inside your store is the first step. And then once you kind of compose those ideas, then you start to put them on paper and you figure out, what you need to do in advance. I'm going to now talk about the marketing aspect because that is a crucial step in getting people into the store once they're at the festival. Some of the things that you can do, you don't really have to think, be worried about what am I going to do to get people in the store. You have thousands of people downtown. And so what you need to do is look at what you're already doing and maximize those efforts. If you have social media, start letting people know that you're celebrating the festival inside your store in some way by letting them know what you're doing, for a couple weeks out. If you're going to offer a complimentary cider in your store while people shop, let people know that you're doing that. If you're going to demonstrate a product that ties in, let people know. Build a Facebook event for what you're doing inside your store, and then start sharing it with partners in the community. Ways to share it, just copy the link in your from the Facebook event in the website or whatever the HTTP link is, and send it to partners like Downtown Ithaca, that'd be us. Send it to any one of our staff. We will we'll add the page to our calendar, and we'll also put it on our radar to talk about it in the things that are happening around downtown. Share it with other businesses to let them know. And then also look for the hashtag or words like what festival it is. If it's Ithaca Festival, do a little bit of homework in the marketing in advance. Go to the Ithaca Festival website, see what hashtag they're using. So any text you write in there at the end, put that hashtag in, because it creates a searchable link. So they can, people who are searching for Ithaca Festival will start to see your information popping up. Or tagging the businesses who are involved in the process. You know, the best thing that I think it's a very easily forgotten piece of marketing is that your staff at the register should be talking about what you're going to do for, you know, the weeks leading up, and inviting the customers who are shopping in your store to come back during the festival and come into the store because you're doing something special. And so you have a free direct to customer message, and you know, you can't get cheaper advertising than that. So using the time leading up to it is so effective. You know, talking about what you're doing, inviting them to come back. You know, you can even think about maybe a loyalty benefit. So if they shopped in your store in the weeks leading up, perhaps a bounce back coupon at the festival for those customers who already shop at your store. It kind of gives them a VIP treatment and encourages them to think about you're doing something in relation to the festival. And so they see that as an extension of the festival. And then if you have sandwich boards that you use for your store currently, tailor the message that's on the sandwich board to the festival and the theme of the festival, so that people think of it as this is more to do in addition to what they already saw outside. And then a final thing that I think is really effective is you have storefront window displays. There are people paying money to be at the festivals and have a 10 by 10 tent. You have windows. You can have free advertising for what you're doing in the store for the month leading up. So definitely plan to do a window display in that theme, because then it looks like it's part of the festival and it will bring people in. Those are a couple quick things. I don't want to take up too much time because there's a lot of really great panelists who are going to talk about what they have been doing. But I did want to leave you with that one key theme, and that is that people are coming to the festival. They're braving a lot of hurdles that would normally prevent people from coming out. And so what are you going to do to celebrate with those people who have made the effort to come to our community? And that's what I want you to think about when you think about planning for the festival. What are you going to do to celebrate with these people? So I'm going to now turn it over to Summer, who is going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts protocol of, you know, doing stuff, I guess, in tying in with the festival. So.
Hi, everyone. I'm Summer Cowan. I'm the Special Events Director for Downtown Ithaca Alliance. So I am our main organizer here for Apple Harvest Festival, the craft fair part of the Ithaca Festival, Chili Cook-Off, and a lot of the other big events that you'll see downtown. The biggest thing I think to keep in mind is that we're here to help you. If you have questions, reach out to me, because part of why we hold these events is because we want to drive people into your business. We want people to see what you have on offer and then also come back later. But so as Allison mentioned, there's all kinds of things that you can do to get your store ready. And our panelists will have a lot more examples to tell you in just a couple minutes. But I did want to do just a few things to keep in mind about what you can and maybe can't necessarily do regarding the space outside of your store. So you have about 3 feet from the door of your store typically. That is kind of your space to do what you want with during the festivals. And some of our panelists actually can tell you some things that they've done with that space. But if you need more than that, that's when you would need to get a space at the festival. And we do offer downtown business member rates. If you decide that you would also like to have a tent, we have a couple of our merchants that do that, but you definitely don't have to do that. But that 3 feet space is an area where if you are a restaurant, you can pop out a table, you can put information out, you can have a rack merchandise out there. You can do a lot of things with that amount of space. The one thing that you do want to keep in mind if you're doing that is that we need to make sure we maintain a safe walkway in between that area and the tents that are outside. If you know that you're going to pop out and do an activity or sell merchandise, reach out to us. Let us know if there's a way that we can help promote that in our festival promotions. We will. It will also help me when I'm making our map of what booths go where to make sure that I'm not putting something that might conflict with what you're doing right out there. So if you are having someone come into your shop to do an activity, I want to make sure that I'm not putting someone that does a similar activity nearby. So like I said, we're here to help you. If you have any questions, do reach out to us. I'm summer@downtownithaca.com. You can always reach us through the info email address as well.
All right, so we're going to start with our awesome panel. So we're just going to have a few questions for them. This first question that we're going to kick off with, of the 5 large festivals that happen downtown Ithaca annually, which has been the most successful for your business and why do you think it is? So the options there are Chili Cook-Off in early February, Ithaca Festival in early June, Apple Harvest Festival at the end of September, Wizarding Weekend in late October, and the Ice Festival Chowder Cook-Off in mid-December. So that's question 1. Zach, you want to kick it off? Sure.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach. I am the general manager of F. Oliver's. We are located at 154 on the Commons. The way I like to answer this question is, especially for F. Oliver's, there are 2 types of successes in a festival. One would be a successful festival that increases the amount of products bought, of course. But secondly, just name recognition and people seeing your brand, seeing your store, knowing where you are, can also be counted as a success. So for example, the Apple Harvest Festival is one of our biggest, most successful events when it comes to people buying more products. At the Apple Harvest Festival, people come and they know that they need extra space for bags. They know that they're going to be carrying stuff around. They know that this is an event that they're going to be purchasing a lot of things for. So use that to your advantage. Understand what people may be looking for, apple-themed things, cinnamon-themed things. On the other hand, you have the chili cook-offs and the chowder cook-offs, which personally for us do not drive a ton of people into the store to pick up products, but drive a ton of people to the front of the store to figure out what we're about. What we do is we make cornbreads with our products just as a sample to have along with the chilies and the chowders. Most people coming down to those 2 festivals are looking to inhale as much chowder as possible or chili as possible, not necessarily walk around with bags of products on their shoulders. And so it's important to kind of manipulate your message a little bit in that way, maybe do something simpler, and in that way may involve a little bit less planning through the back end as well.
Okay. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm general manager at Buffalo Street Books. And we are not on the Commons. So festivals are a different beast for us. And the 2 festivals that we've so far had the most success with are the Ithaca Festival and Wizarding Weekend. And Wizarding Weekend, I think the key thing that's different from all the other weekends, all the other festivals, is that built into the festival is bringing people into the stores with the artifact hunt. And so we definitely get a lot more people going through the store for that. And because we're a bookstore, we have a lot of book related, Harry Potter related, all things like that, that we can fun buttons about being a wizard, stuff like that. So we sell a lot of that kind of stuff. It doesn't necessarily sell a lot of books, but that definitely brings the most people through. And then Ithaca Festival, I think just because it spreads further, it seems to anyway, we just tend to have a lot of people for that one as well. And we've also done some things with that one where we've, when we have a special discount that weekend for anyone who's wearing a festival button, for instance. And so some people who really know they want to visit the bookstore anyway, that can make a big difference. So those are the things that have worked best for us.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm the co-owner of Home Green Home. I wanted to talk about a couple of what would seem like the less likely to be successful for retail store events, the food events. So we do really well for chowder cook-off and for chili cook-off. I think the thing to keep in mind for chowder cook-off is that it's cold outside when that happens. And so a lot of times we think of the events as being outdoors. What's nice about mid-December is it's quite chilly, and that brings a lot of people inside into the retail stores. The other thing is, of course, being the holiday season, people have shopping on the mind. And so while they're enjoying the event, they can also take that opportunity to get some holiday shopping done. And so you can really take advantage of that event just by being on your holiday A game, which you should be doing anytime, anyway in December. So whether or not that's offering free gift wrapping in your store or, some hot cider, things to warm up with. So we should be busy, every Saturday in December. And for us, Chowder Cook-Off is a very busy Saturday. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got Chili Cook-Off. What we like about that is it's just warm enough that we can put a table outside, and so it looks like we're part of the event. We tend to tie that in with our zero waste lunch supplies, so we'll have utensil sets and mugs for chili. And I think the important thing to capitalize on with Chili Cook-Off is for a lot of consumers, that's the only time they're going to be coming downtown between Christmas and the warm weather. And so that's really your opportunity to really help your bottom line mid-February. And that's something that we really see. And so it's important to take advantage of that.
Hello, I'm Tim Gray from Comics for Collectors on Aurora Street. I've been around, just to review, I've been around for about 38 years. We were on the Commons in the early 80s, and different events back then included one that we tied into the Ithaca Festival that we had given away about 3,000 comics there for children's readers, and brought in a couple of artists that came in and did free drawings and did demos for coloring their comics. And we probably had, there was 20,000 people that come to the festival. So they streamed by our shop and come into our shop back then. It was on the second floor. That translated into a lot of business, and a lot of good reviews, and a lot of fun times at the shop. So that was good. As we moved on Aurora Street in '94, that demographics has changed. And so we don't do those big events as much as we used to, so that we usually bring in a guest and then have a signing with them during the festival, but we don't have as many events going on over there. The festival does mostly center on the Commons on the West End, so that's not as strong as it used to be. One of the more successful events that we have right now is the Wizarding Weekend that's been around for the last couple of years, and they do a artifact hunt, and that's pretty popular. Yeah, don't be afraid of doing failures. Failures like, yeah, Zach said that failures, not necessarily a bad thing because you learn from it, but people see your operation maybe for the first time and still can say, hi, come on and visit us, and then they go along again. So that's about all I have to say.
You all touched on it a little bit, but I'd love to kind of dive deeper in. What do you do during the festival that helps draw people to your store specifically to try to generate sales off that foot traffic? We'll go back to you, Zach. Sure.
Well, I think among the panel here, it's probably easiest for me as I manage a food store, and free food is always a great way to get people's attention. So for us personally, we always make sure we do exactly what Summer said and get a table out there out front. It is really interesting to see how differently you're accepted by the festival goers when you're out there looking to put boots on the ground and make an effect, or if you just have an open sign on the front of your door. Most people at these festivals are just kind of leisurely walking and trying to find something to grab their attention. So you just need to be that thing to grab their attention. As I said, it's very easy for us as a food store. We put small samples of popcorn or cornbread for the chili and chowder festival, something that can kind of tie along with the theme of the festival, whether it's apple harvest, great to do maple flavored things, cinnamon flavored things, or the chowder and chili festival, as I said, to work with cornbreads. What is important is that you do something. And as little connection as you see between the festival themes and your own business, create something, whatever that may be. A few people have already talked about Wizarding Weekend. What do Wizarding Weekend and a culinary specialty food shop have to do with each other? Not a ton of things, but one thing that does have to do with Wizarding is potions, and oils and vinegars go very well as a potion. And so don't just give up. Don't just throw in the towel because you feel like something is not quite the theme of whatever you're trying to sell. Manipulate. Do what you can to make sure that your products are being seen as part of the festival. And then once you do that, get out there and be seen. And whether that is with a table out front or if you have to invest in a tent, it's really worth it because a lot of people are just like squirrels out there looking for the next nut to catch their attention. And the front of a store that's there all the time that hasn't been changed and nothing out in front of it is not something that's going to catch their attention, like a free sample or like Summer said, even just information out on the front of the street. It's a successful festival if hundreds of people now know about your business being there. And so try to keep that in mind as well.
Hi, it's Lisa again from Buffalo Street Books. One thing that we find has helped, and again, we are probably the furthest off the beaten path of any of these businesses. And so one of the things that Allison had talked about was social media. We try very hard to, know what the hashtags are ahead of time and to prepare some social media to go along with the events. If it's Chili Fest, we'll highlight cookbooks that are spicy, have things like that relevant to them. The other thing is just something that Megan highlighted, especially, when it's Ithaca Festival or some of the warmer festivals, like coming out of the heat. And when it's the cold festivals, come warm up over here. So some of those kind of simple little just messaging things in social media are the things that we've found work the best. And then occasionally we also will have an event in the store, a reading that's related some way. I mean, often we're already having readings with local authors. So if we have something like that during festival, connecting it to festival, things like that.
My main piece of advice is to do whatever you can to look like you're part of the event. So at minimum, open your door. If you can, put a table on your sidewalk. And if you don't feel like you have enough space on your sidewalk, I think it's worth renting a tent. Businesses like Breathe and Ithaca Sheepskin, I see on the tents, and that's actually what gave us the idea to start having a table out front. And it makes a huge difference. We find that if we put a table out front, we're busy at the table, and then we're also busier in the store. And I think it's important to remember that the people are coming down for the event, so if it's warm, they're outside, they're enjoying the event, and you need to draw them in. And that doesn't always mean that you have to invest in something, the staff for a table or the money for a tent, even just decorating makes a big difference. So for Wizarding Weekend, we put a big inflatable dragon out front, and that makes us look like we're part of the event. We have a little scavenger hunt inside, but they're there for the event, and you just want to make sure that you are part of that.
Hey, Megan, do other things really help bring in people into the shop that buy something?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, people definitely, we see more purchases on these days.
Do you do a lot of free stuff sometimes too? Like we give out a lot of free balloons to kids coming by, and they come into the shop and look at our product and they get a free balloon. Do you do stuff like that too?
Yeah, for sure. So it depends on the event. So for Wizarding Weekend, because it's so many kids and it's a little bit less about shopping, we give away free stickers and some discounts. For Chili Cook-Off, we'll often do a discount on our zero waste supplies, both so that we're selling more things.
Cool. Zero waste supplies?
Yep. Think about all those cups and forks and things they're using, for Chili Fest.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And we do, discounts on our young reader stuff and graphic novels when there's a big event. It also depends on how the weather is. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep, totally. Yeah, weather is a big factor. And then keep in mind that sometimes even the bad weather is to your benefit because then they want to come inside.
Yeah, we had an event, unfortunately, we tied into the Binghamton Philharmonic, and around Thanksgiving, they had an event at the theater, and we had an event at the store. We only ended up, it was a blizzard night, and we only had one person come in. So unfortunately, the presentation, we brought in some electronic people. We did displays and gaming in the store. It was really cool, but then we only had one person show up. That's the way it goes.
You win some, you lose some.
There you go.
So obviously a ton of preparation goes into getting ready for these big festivals. Could you share some of the tips or ways that you go about preparing for these big festivals?
So for F. Oliver's, a big thing I was talking about before was free sampling. And so like both Allison and Summer were talking about, you want to make sure that you're looking forward as far as having that product on your shelf. If we're out front giving away a particular spice blend or extra virgin olive oil, we need to make sure we have extra of that in the store. So it's really just about looking forward and probably much farther forward than you normally would. Personally, in my personal life, I don't do the kind of planning I do in this job. It really takes some forward thinking. And like Allison said, get the dates on your calendar and start thinking about it. I mean, if it's a week before the festival, it's going to get stressful. But if it's months before the festival, you can bounce some ideas off your employees. It's really important that you feel the need, or you feel like you've staffed it well enough. I know for us, especially having a table out front, it's important that we are authentically connecting with the people who are passing by. If they are just passing by and grabbing a slip of paper off your table or taking a sample and just walking, that's a little bit of visibility for your business, but it is a little bit of a miss on an opportunity to really make a connection with someone. And so for F. Oliver's, the biggest things for us are forward thinking and making sure that we not only are preparing for whatever sample we want to give, but to sell extra of that product. And then also staffing is really big for us. I know it's not easy for everybody to just bring a couple extra people in. F. Oliver's is very similar. It's a business and a store that can be run by one person on most days. And on festival weekends, sometimes we have 6 people in there at a time. I really can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you have somebody who can look the person taking the sample in the eye, give them some information about why and what they're eating, and then hopefully be able to lead them into the store to make a transaction.
Thanks. I'm not sure that I have a lot new to add here. I think that one of the main thing we do, again, not being as connected, is social media. So being prepared on that front and starting to drum up the interest. I love the idea that I heard earlier from Allison, I think, about perhaps having something a few weeks ahead that you're giving to loyal customers to entice them to come back. We could certainly try something like that. And then again, if you can find a reason to pull people in, then having your own activities. Like I said, we've done local authors, but preparing and knowing what you're going to do, and then really being prepared with social media are the main things I would say.
Prepare for a big festival. My biggest piece of advice is to staff for busyness. And so whatever that means for your store, if you're a small store, just make sure you're open. If you have extra staff you can bring in, I think that's really worthwhile. We find that we more than pay for that extra staffing. So if we have a table out front, we'll have someone man the table, we'll have someone inside to man the register, and for the busier festivals, we'll have a third person that can sort of go back and forth between the table out front and the register inside. So we find that we're making both a bunch of sales out front, but then a large percentage of people are attracted to the table, they want to see more, and they go inside, so we're also much busier at our main register. And so being prepared for that is really worthwhile.
Hi, we actually do an event right in our shop called Free Comic Day that's been going on for about 16 years. And we usually have about 500 people come throughout the day, and we do prepare with extra staff and people outside, make sure the flow is going to be proper. We have guests come in for signings, and even a gaming company sometimes shows up. And we do bring in more staff. We make sure early on that they know that this event is happening. And we do make sure that we actually promote it about a month to 2 months ahead of time. But since it's been going for 16 years, a lot of people are already in tune to it. It's first day in May on Saturday, or first Saturday in May, actually. So everybody pretty much knows about it. They're interested in getting free comics. We usually have about 100 different ones. They're very kid oriented. So it's a very fun thing for younger readers. So yeah, you have to prepare it, that's for sure, for staff.
So last question for our panel here. There's always new businesses opening up downtown. If you could give any advice to a new business owner or manager of a downtown store who's about to do their first festival, what would it be?
So my number one advice is be visible and make sure you do something. You see a lot of places as you walk down the Commons or wherever the festival might be, and their door is closed, their sign is open, and sometimes their sign is closed. And you need to take advantage of the times that there's extra people on the Commons or in the festival area or just downtown, because as Allison said, it does take some hurdles, especially right now, to get down there. And so be visible, do something. As I said before, make sure that you tie yourself to the festival in any way possible. Try to get creative. And yeah, boots on the ground, as they say. Don't shy away from doing things. If they're your approach to do something with the IA, or just given the opportunity to do something at the festival, do so.
Yeah, and the other thing that I don't think we've talked about so much yet, but which I think is really important, Allison hinted at it, is work with other businesses, connect to people, your neighbors. I'm in the DeWitt Mall partly. I'm on Buffalo Street and in the DeWitt Mall. And so whenever we can do festival related things that several partners in the building are doing, it really helps us a lot. Also just want to highlight that there are a lot of festivals that are not these big festivals, but that are happening around town and that are really useful for our businesses, and other people might be able to latch onto some of those as well. For instance, we've got the New Voices Festival coming up in mid-April. It's an Ithaca College event which brings some really famous authors to town, and they do a lot of events around, but there's a short reading on 17th, I think, of April. Well, they'll all be in Buffalo Street Books reading short pieces. And then there's Spring Rights, which is the same weekend as Free Comic Weekend. And people are all over downtown going to various events for Spring Rights. And so if you as a business can think of a way that you can connect to that, that would be really smart too, I think.
As Zach said, you just want to tie yourself to the event in any way possible. Just get started. You know, you don't need to do anything grand to begin with, but you're leaving money on the table to not tie yourself in some way. Not only will you'll get shout outs from the DIA on their Facebook. You want to be part of that marketing. You want to be part of the event, and you don't need to invest a lot to get started. We didn't even have a mobile device out front the first couple of festivals that we had product on the sidewalk, and now we do. And eventually we'll probably get an iPad, but we haven't put a lot of money into getting started. And so you can definitely do things, and it's definitely worthwhile.
Well, I would say don't be afraid of doing something new. Even though these guys say to tie it into your product mix, I think that anything that's kind of clever is going to help you promote your operation and get people in the door. We're going to do something a little bit different with Fashion Week that's coming up in another week, I believe. And we're going to do a cosplay runway show, something very new for us. So one of my staff wants to do it. So don't be afraid to let your staff to explore different ideas and programs and events.
Sounds good.
So that is all for our Getting Festival Ready webinar. Thank you so much for attending. Big thank you to Allison and Summer, as well as our panel. Certainly make sure to visit F. Oliver's, Home Green Home, Comics for Collectors, and Buffalo Street Books. And don't hesitate to reach out to the DIA if you need anything. Thanks.